for this problem, we're going to mark on a coordinate line all the points for which x equals 3 in this absolute value equation. So if I were going to teach this concept to a class, it's obviously important to talk about absolute value in terms of its distance away from 0. But in this case, you can see that it's not 0 that you're solving for, it's x minus 5. So one way I talk about absolute value is sort of like midpoint and the distance away from that midpoint. So the first step would be to solve this equation without the absolute value, but for 0. So x minus 5 equals 0, so x equals 5. So essentially 5 is the midpoint, and 3 is going to be the distance away, right? So if we look at this coordinate line on the bottom, you see that 5 is the midpoint, right? So we can mark that, and that 3 on either direction will satisfy this absolute value. So if we went all the way to 2, we'll notice that that is 3 away from 5, and then we also notice that 8 is 3 away. So that's a good way of using the coordinate plane to solve these types of problems, and also using absolute values sort of like this midpoint and distance away. And so if we were going to solve this equation, we can double check to see that our coordinate line is correct. So when you solve for an absolute value, as you know, you set it up so that you're solving for both 3 and x minus 5 would equal negative 3. And then you go ahead and solve for each of those equations. So if we do the one on the left, we're going to add 5. We see that x equals 8. And on the equation to the right of that, we notice that if we add 5 to both sides, that x equals 2. And so just to confirm, if we go down to that coordinate line, we can see that that in fact is exactly what happened. And so that confirms our answers.